So obviously you're going to need some protection for your lungs. So this mask I've got here is a respirator. This was only about £20, so about $30. It's got a carbon filter on the inside as well as dust filters on the outside. The dust filters obviously will filter out all the dust that's being produced by the machines. The carbon filter will filter out any fumes when it comes to filling or staining or lacquering. So if you use an oil-based lacquer. So, one of the things I wanted to point out, I mean, for one thing, the floor is so uneven that, I mean, it's just wiggling all over the place here. So I've really set myself up here with this really rough floor. But you've got the general width there of the belt machine, something about there. Now let's assume that it's a flat floor. You want to do one strip like that. Hopefully it'll be clean after that. If not, you do another strip. And then the next strip you do is not that, okay? It's not like you move on one full width of the drum, you move on 50%. So you go along this line, you want the middle of this line to go along the middle of the sanding machine here. So you overlap by 50% each time. And that way you don't miss bits and it produces a flatter, smoother finish. I'm going to move swiftly on to sanding the floor diagonally because this floor needs to be flattened so badly. So hopefully we can get this floor flat with these 24 grits. So I'm going to give that a go now. As you can see, this is a really rough floor. But what I don't know, hopefully you might have noticed is that just in the area that I've been sanding, the machine is starting to wobble less. So we're taking off all these peaks here. The reason that board is still dirty is because it's below the surface. Whereas, see, this board next to it is proud, and so is this one. So the sander is taking off the high points and leaving the low point, so it's going to slowly bring the floor down to level with these lower boards. There's one over here that's really low down. It's going to take a while, but this is what I wanted. I wanted to set myself up with a very difficult floor, just to demonstrate that it's possible with these terrible machines, that you can do it. If you're in America and you're near a Home Depot, I did a post about Home Depot and how bad their tools are, but I don't know when it might have changed, but I actually since looked at their website and they've got virtually everything you need to do a perfect job. I mean, they've got professional machines, so you can do a very good job with the machines that you rent from Home Depot. But one of the reasons why I stopped is because I just wanted to explain quickly why I'm going diagonal. A lot of people have heard that you need to go with the grain, and generally speaking that's true. If I was to go with the grain with this 24 grit, it would look a hell of a lot better than going diagonal. The reason is the fibers in the wood that run along the board, if you sand with those fibers, it's not quite as aggressive. The grits are running kind of like combing hair, but in the direction of the fibers. When you go diagonally or across the board, which you shouldn't really do because that just does a bad job. If you go diagonally, it tears across those fibers, so it can really rip up a load of wood. It's more aggressive, and also because this floor is uneven, as I'm going along it, let's say that one of the boards is dipped down, it can tilt the machine and you can just sand all the way across the floor on a slight tilt. Whereas when you go diagonally, yeah, it kind of goes all over the place, but it does a better job of riding over those peaks and flattening them out. So, and obviously the best thing is to go diagonal and then go straight, and then go diagonal again and then go straight, depending on how much sanding your floor needs. It's going to take a lot with this, so we're probably going to go diagonal and then straight with the 24, and then maybe diagonal again with the 40 grit and straight again. That's a lot of sanding. If you've got a floor that's relatively flat, you should not be doing that much rough grit sanding. Hopefully you should just need to do a straight 40 and then maybe a diagonal 60. That gets it nice and flat before going on to the higher grits. If it's got maybe a aluminium oxide finish, which a lot of floors in America do, you'll need to do that 40 grit diagonal cut at least to try and get that off the floor. So diagonal cuts flatten the floor very well. They're much more aggressive, but you should always finish the floor with the grain. So I'm going to try and sand the rest of this floor now, so wish me luck. Now you may have noticed that I'm not just doing one pass and another pass and another pass moving across the floor. When it's like this, it's just a case of keep attacking the high spots until you get it level. I mean, I'm just going over the areas to try and sand it down, and hopefully once I've got it level, then I'll be going through it methodically. But at this point, you know, if you do a section and it misses a bit, just go over it again. The other thing is sometimes you can think a board is clean and actually it's still got a bit of finish on it. So just make sure you look at the floor very closely and make sure that it's just bare wood and not any kind of finish on the surface, because sometimes you can't see it until you put the lacquer down and the lacquer soaks into the wood and sits on the surface where the finish remains. So be sure about that. This machine is really starting to hurt my back, so I think I've just realised that I can actually extend the handle. hopefully that'll be a little bit easier on my back. The other thing I haven't mentioned, that I don't know if you've noticed, but on my YouTube videos, my sanding machine has a lever that you can just lift up and pull down. You don't have to rock the whole machine. Well, with this, it's rocking the whole machine, so it's a very basic machine. So as you can see, it's a lot of the same. So I'm just going over it and over it and over it, trying to get it flat. Again, hopefully you're not going to need to do this. If you've got any kind of normal floor, then you won't need to do this. Instead of just keep recording me doing this, I'm going to give my cameraman's arm a rest and turn the camera off and just keep going over it. But just to give you a brief of what we're looking for, again, we're trying to sand down the peaks. As you can see, more of the floor is starting to look flat, and more, less and less of this old finish is showing. I might, whilst the camera's off, just go straight and then diagonal again and then straight, because it just really helps to level it out and sand it down. And you might have noticed whilst I was sanding there, I was just changing the angle slightly as I was going across it, just to hit it from different angles. When you've got these diagonal scratches going across, it's a lot easier for the straight to come out and take those scratches out. Whereas when you're going diagonal over and over the same scratches, it kind of is not quite as good as if you were to change on every pass, but probably going into it too much there. The main takeaway is that I'm just going to keep going over it. I may not get it completely clean before I then go straight with the 24. So just going straight with the 24 is kind of just to prepare it for the 40 grit, to kind of smooth it out a little bit, so we can then transition into the 40 grit without too many issues.